G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Now you might be wondering why I've got such a big tree here, a nice big healthy Shimpaku juniper. Now if you want me to restyle this tree, I'm sorry you're disappointed. This is how I produce all my little Shohin stock Shimpaku junipers. Now I have two of these stock, very tall, straight Shimpaku juniper, pretty much stock plants I call them, and over the years, all I do is keep air layering off this tree. So I prepare the tree and then I air layer, take some air layers here and there, usually from the top. That's where the strength and the growth is. So usually from the top. It's early September now, it's spring in Melbourne, so perfect time for me to air layer and get a result within 8 to 12 weeks. I can get a pretty good result with these. So last year I just put some wire on some of these branches, some heavy wire, and bent them a bit. Now I can see in here there's four potential, at least four that I'm going to air layer, and I'm actually going to take this big huge one out the top as well. I'm going to air layer that out. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to start with this big tall heavy one. It's going to be straight, so I'll create another stock plant, so in the future years that will be used similar to this stock. And keep taking air layers off and keep growing and so on. So you just need to plan a little bit, need to figure out, once you get a really good stock plant or a couple of them, you really need to work with that plant and make the best use of the material. You know, I hate to cut off Shimpaku growth like this. I would never do it. I would always air layer them off, because Shimpaku is probably not the hardest, it's probably not the easiest thing to get a hold of, and twisted up material, there's not much of it out there at the moment. But you know what, you can grow your own, and this is how I do it. So I would never go and cut this back heavily and create a tree out of it. It's just not ready for that. Maybe one day it will be nice short, tall, nice short, stumpy, straight, formal upright or something like that, because the trunk is very straight at the base. All the growth at the top, we're going to air layer all that off bit by bit. I'll come and show you the 4 air layers I'm going to take off when I bring the camera in. And 5 air layers I'm going to put on this tree, and in November, December I should have results, and I should be able to take those off and grow them as separate plants. I did that last year. Last year I probably had 20 or plus new air layers grow, so they're just growing along, so they should be okay. So I'm going to grab the camera and show you what I'm talking about, so it's easy for you guys to see what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm at the top of the tree. Now you can see this branch here, I've wired it. Now what I've done is also let me try and find, it's a bit blurry. See, so this branch here I've wired it, and I've actually taken away where my finger is here, where I'm going to put the air layer, but this part's still twisted. There's another couple of small ones down there which I'm going to leave alone this year. I've also taken this one off, see this one? I'm going to air layer it in here. There is this big one here. So see how there's some wire on it. So I've only cut the wire off where I'm going to put the air layer. I'm going to air layer in there. That's 4, and I'm going to air layer this big one here too. That's a fairly big one, fairly big one. But I think I'll be able to bend and twist that once it's out of the air layer, and I'll be able to make a nice. It's quite a big one. You can see that. But I'll be able to air layer that. But that's the big straight trunk I was talking about at the top. See how it's very straight. That will be our new stock plant. So that's the plan, guys. So I'm going to go and create air layers here, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I don't know if I can be able to try and get the camera in close to see how I do it, but it's pretty straightforward. I think you guys have seen the technique before, but what I'll do is maybe I'll show you step-by-step process on this branch and this one, because you can see them quite easily. But I'm going to have to be careful, because I'm going to have to keep room enough to put all the air layers in, because a lot of these branches are really close to each other. So just got to make sure I plan it well and have reasonable size bags of sphagnum moss to tie these up. So just got to be a bit wary, but we'll see how we go. All right, I'll check back in. All right, so just want to show you nice and close. That's how I've ring barked that branch. You can see it's quite a long distance, which is it's good, so it doesn't let the cambium grow over and heal. So I should be able to get roots growing from that top cut. Oops. From this top cut here, roots should grow from there, and that's how we grow That's how we grow air layers. I've got the plastic ready. Now that I'll tie it with a bit of wire around here, make a little bubble or a little like an envelope-ish ball thing, whatever you call it, and that should hold sphagnum moss. So I'll give you a close-up of that as well now. But there you go. That's the start of the air layer, and keep it nice and long and wide so that it doesn't heel over. Alright guys, so that's the pouch with the sphagnum moss inside it, just wide up. It really is just that simple. Like making sure that cut is clean is the most probably important. Wrapping the sphagnum, packing it into that ball. It's not really that hard. You figure out pretty easily how to do that. Now I've got that's one done. Now I'm going to have to do on that one. That's a bit wet. You can see that one. That one, two, got 3, 4 more to do, and I'll just whiz through them in the next maybe 20 minutes to half an hour, and I'll show you how they look on the tree when I'm done. Alright guys, so after about half an hour's work, here's the finished product. You can see 5 balls of sphagnum moss all up in the top half of the tree. This is all on really healthy growth, so it's really starting to elongate and expand. You can see all the nice healthy growth at the tips, so it's really doing well. Nice healthy tree, nice healthy growth. That's an important point I didn't make. Make sure you take air layers of healthy, strong growth. It's the only way this will work. All work successfully. You can see some of these two are quite big in terms of balls. The only problem I had was getting those two in really close together. Next time, don't remind myself not to do 2 air layers that are that close together. I need some room to be able to get my fingers in there and get the wire in. Just another point, make sure you got a nice sharp knife to do the cuts with. Have lots of sphagnum moss available, soaking in water, ready to go. If you got rooting hormone, great. You don't need it, but doesn't help. Doesn't harm the tree. It probably does give it a bit more of a oomph to get going. You just paint the rooting hormone on the top cut, so the roots can form that top cut. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Now what I intend to do is wrap these up in black plastic. Just wrap them around because the black plastic will absorb the sun more and keep these air layers warm. That's just something I do. Seems to work, so I haven't had any problems with it. Probably can work without as well, but you know what? If something's working, just keep going with it. So just want to show you, there you go, 5 air layers. Should have 5 successful trees by around, so it's early September, October, November, probably end of November, early December. We'll check these again, and I think we should be all good. They should be full of roots, and we've got more trees to work with. So I'll just come back and show you what it looks like with all the black plastic around it. So this is now what it looks like with the black plastic all around each one. Some of them I've tied with wire, some I've just tied around. But what I forgot to mention is I'll also check these air layers, make sure they don't get dry, and if they start to look dry, I'll use a syringe type thing, fill it with water, and then open up the top and squeeze in some water. Pretty much that makes me look after them, or that keeps the air layers nice and moist. Usually I don't have to worry about it until maybe the actual air layer starts to actually grow roots. Once the roots start happening, then it will start to absorb water. So that's usually what happens. But anyway, I think that's enough for this video. You see that, and new Shimpaku, more Shimpaku junipers to be created through air layering. It's my favourite technique. Wire up some branches in the season before. Probably helps in terms of getting some movement into the branches, so you don't have straight beam-pole branches and trunks to deal with. But yeah, I think that's the way to go. Get them wired up, air layer them the next year. At least you got something started that has some movement in the tree. Alright guys, that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Bye.